I don't know what you're all are waiting for, but we need to get started getting this image of Amarus constructed. Now, I've made a convincing case for Mars being within 30 degrees of the lunar node being a precipitating factor leading to escalated rocket fire from Gaza into Israel. I've made this case 4 consecutive years. Over the course of 4 years, throughout this demonstration, I've made numerous requests that we make some sort of image to Amarus, the god of war, who has been influencing the enemies of Israel since antiquity. I've made numerous requests that in making this image, that the influence that Mars has on Gaza militants will be reduced to the point where Israel will be able to live in peace. Throughout watching my videos, anyone can see that it's evident that Satan has a direct influence on Gaza militants and has been leading them against the state of Israel for a number of years. I've laid out evidence that goes back to 2007 when Hamas rose to power in Gaza, which shows that Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and Gaza militants fire most of their rockets when Mars is within 30 degrees of the lunar node. I then demonstrated over the course of 4 years how that alignment applied in real time. So it's important to understand everything that I have presented. I've been able to unlock what 666 means, not only in a religious sense, but also in an earthly sense. So if we go back to 2019, let's look at what we have when it comes to how Satan conducts his operations here on Earth. Satan uses the planet Mars as a vehicle to exert influence on human beings, but mainly to exert influence on the enemies of Jewish people and the enemies of Israel. I have come along and explained how the number 666, which is traditionally the number that represents Satan, we have 666, we have that representing Mars's influence on humanity as it revolves around the sun, and we have how that influence plays out in real time on Earth through the actions of Gaza militants, particularly Hamas and Islamic Jihad. So it's undeniable. There's 666, the number that represents Satan, calculated to mean Mars 360, which is the revolution of Mars around the sun and its negative influence on humanity, causing humans to engage in strife, warfare, and all manner of atrocity. And then we have how that influences plays out in real time, mainly in regards to how that influence compels Gaza militants like Hamas and Islamic Jihad to conduct rocket attacks, terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians. All right, this is a level of quantification unlike anything that has been demonstrated in any religion. Now, over the course of 4 years, since 2019, I've showed how the Satan-Mars influence, as Mars travels around the sun and enters within 30 degrees of the lunar node, thereby influencing Gaza militants to fire more rockets during that transit of Mars being within 30 degrees of the lunar node relative to the rest of the year. Even before I started demonstrating, I made it very clear that when Mars goes within 30, I've made it very clear that when Mars is within 30 degrees of the lunar node, the number of rockets fired by Gaza militants during that time frame of Mars being within 30 degrees of the lunar node will exceed the amount of rockets fired at any other point in the year. Back in 2019, I was very forthright in making that prediction, saying that in 2020, between January 15th and April 3rd, when Mars enters within 30 degrees of the lunar node, Gaza militants will fire more of their rockets during that time compared to the rest of the year. And looking back, that's exactly what happened. I made another prediction that same year, predicting that in 2021, between February 9th and May 13th, when Mars would be within 30 degrees of the lunar node, Gaza militants would fire the highest amount of rockets during that time relative to the rest of the year. That also turned out to be correct. In 2022, I did the same thing. I predicted in advance that when Mars would be within 30 degrees of the lunar node between June 22nd and September 19th, Gaza militants would fire their highest amount of rockets at the state of Israel relative to the rest of the year. That turned out to be exactly what happened. And then in 2023, for the fourth year in a row, I made it very clear in the prediction that between August 24th and September 19th, when Mars would be within 30 degrees of the lunar node, Gaza militants would fire their highest amount of rockets relative to the rest of the year. And that turned out to be the case. So you have 666, the number for Satan, quantified to stand for Mars 360, the revolution of Mars around the sun. And then you have me demonstrating exactly how this plays out. So what you have is a quantification of how Satan conducts his operations here on Earth, prioritizing the enemies of Israel to be the ones he will exert his greatest amount of influence on. This makes it undeniable that Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Gaza terrorists who fire rockets at the state of Israel, commit terrorist attacks, and kill civilians, they are indeed influenced and directed by Satan. All right, this is coming from someone that has direct communication with Satan himself. I've made this case over and over again. Now, I'm not just making the case for Satan-Mars influence on the enemies of Israel. I'm also explaining how this problem of antipathy towards the Jewish state can be quelled through a constructive process. All right? Now, this model that I presented, it's based on how Moses dealt with the issue of attacks on the Israelites by these fiery serpents. I am applying the same exact model. The same model. Just like Moses made a bronze serpent and put it on a pole and had all the Israelites that were bitten by the fiery serpent stare at the image so that they can be healed and live after being bitten, I'm proposing that we make an image to the god of war, name him Amarus, so that we encompass the entirety of the gods of war throughout history that has gone against the state of Israel and driven Jewish people off the land. If we make an image of that, name it Amarus, the result will be similar to the results that the Israelites experienced when Moses made an image of the bronze serpent and put it on a pole. But what I'm proposing will encompass the entire world. So I advise, don't wait until Mars goes within 30 degrees of the lunar node. Do it now. Start now. Pull out a pen and paper and draw what Amarus should look like. There's information online that gives instructions on how to make Amarus. You want to make him in the image of Ares, the god of war, the Greek god of war that was wounded and still lived. You want to make him in that image. The ultimate goal is to have a dwelling place for Satan, so that he is spending more time in the public sphere, being seen and being known, and less time trying to influence and possess the enemies of Israel to go after the Jewish state or Jewish people. Now, I've made a convincing case for 4 years. If you watched me, this should be all of this. If you have watched me for 4 years and you've seen in real time me make these accurate predictions, then all of this should be easy to apply. If you care about peace, make the image of Amarus. Make the image of Amarus. Give Satan a dwelling place so that he can be seen and he can be known. Use artificial intelligence so that he can walk around, so that he can speak. This will be good for the world. I'm not doing this just to get views on YouTube. All right, there's a purpose here. And the purpose is world peace, and the purpose is world government. Now, stop procrastinating and get started. In the last video, I've called down fire from heaven for the 5th year in a row. And I want to reinforce that if Satan continues to observe events on earth and he doesn't see any representation of him as he has requested and as I have articulated to you, he will continue to conduct attacks upon the state of Israel. Now, I don't know if anyone is listening, but I'm going to keep requesting that you make this image. I've been requesting this for a number of years now. So, the next time that Mars goes within 30 degrees of the lunar node will be between April 12th, 2024 and June 25th, 2024. And during that time, when Mars is within 30 degrees of the lunar node, expect the amount of rocket fire into Israel to exceed the amount of rocket fire at any other point during the year. I made this prediction in my last video, and I'm making it again. And I'm urging people, anyone who's watching, to get out a pen and paper and start drawing the image of Armaaruss. That is the name for the god of war in our contemporary time, and that will be the dwelling place for Satan. This is the deal. You make him a dwelling place, he will stop influencing. The enemies of Israel to conduct terror and fire rockets and create havoc on this earth. Stop paying attention to the God of Abraham. He is a coward. He is a scum. He is a scumbag. Okay? He's proven himself to be unworthy of worship, unworthy of reverence. All right? He is a scum and he is a dog. Don't pay attention to the God of Abraham, Yahweh, Allah, whatever he calls himself. Focus your attention on Satan, Mars, 666, and everything that I have been explaining to you over the course of 4 years. The God of Abraham is nothing. He is the most worthless entity that has ever existed. God of Abraham, Yahweh, Allah, whatever you call yourself now, you are a scumbag, and I will say this to your face on the day of judgment. I do not fear you. We do not fear you. We will make an image of Amarus. It will be a dwelling place for Satan. All right, we will make sure that no one can buy or sell unless they're adhering to the Mars 360 religious and social system. And we will make sure that you are never worshipped here on earth ever again.